All right, sir, we're live.
Well, awesome.
We're sitting here in silence, contemplating life.
Your fate after Bitcoin dumped on you overnight.
I don't have any Bitcoin.
Dude, not any? No perp contracts? No nothing? Yeah, you
Nope.
did.
Ethereum.
All right.
I hold no Bitcoin. Not a spot, not a bit. Okay. Let's see. Today we're going to take on building a trading app and or start building a trading app and walk folks through how that would work. And I am really close. And we're going to talk about a few news stories. So before we get started, let's do that. Unless you've got some news you want to share.
No, you go.
Okay.
Comment the peanut gallery.
All right. So first up, Anthropic. I don't know if you saw this or not, Chuck, but Anthropic reported that they disrupted the first ever AI orchestrated cyber espionage campaign. Evidently, there was somebody that took over and used agentic capabilities. And they're assuming that they have with high confidence it was a Chinese state-sponsored group that manipulated their tool Claude Code into attempting infiltration into roughly 30 global targets and succeeded in a small number of cases.
All right, that'll teach you to let AI write your code for you.
Well, and that'll teach you to use centralized AI, right? I mean, the reason an attacker would use a centralized AI is it makes them a little more difficult to trace.
And it gives them scale too. Everybody that uses that centralized resource can potentially get touched by it.
Exactly. And if you're utilizing, a data center in China, you're going to be a lot easier to trace as opposed to using somebody else's infrastructure.
I will have to tell you, I don't know if you've ever looked at this, but speaking of data centers in China, Alibaba has a huge one that it's trying to catch up to Amazon.
They're always sending me offers.
I know you can get some cheap CPU time if you don't care who's looking over your shoulder.
If you don't care who's looking at your data.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, this thing that you're reporting about right now has a bit of a rebuttal on Ars Technica this morning, where they said, yeah, it wasn't quite as automated as they're making it out to be.
Really?
So, yeah, I think this is partly a hype cycle, AI story versus the reality of it. It might be worth following up with the Ars Technica article. To see.
I'll check it out. Yeah, it's interesting because Anthropic is the one that is tooting their own horn for stopping it and figuring it out and blah blah blah. It's this long blog post that they posted, and it's like, well, gentlemen, I'm not so sure I would be
right.
It's like
the business that we're in and the tools that we have just made a mess of somebody's data center.
Exactly. And, we're helping facilitating foreign governments because we are a centralized AI provider. And then this was really, I'm just going to beat up on centralized AI today and then talk about a couple of other things. OpenAI is trying to make New York Times into an enemy of all AI supporters because New York Times is suing OpenAI over using their content. And OpenAI is fighting their request for access to 20 million chat users' interactions with OpenAI so that they can prove, or OpenAI can not prove, that they're using New York Times content in serving answers up to users. And so OpenAI is another blog post by the company is actually trying to say how evil they are to try to invade your privacy. Well, first of all, you probably did
how evil the New York Times is to try to invade the user's privacy.
Yeah, because they're suing OpenAI for access to those records in order to prove that they, in fact, had used.
We already invaded their privacy. It's our invaded privacy, not yours, New York Times.
Exactly. And that's the the rub there for them, right? It's like they want to flip this into that narrative because they know that it looks horrible that their users' data is accessible. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about using a centralized AI provider. If OpenAI is not saying to them, we can't get to the records. OpenAI is saying to them, we don't want you to have the records, which, certainly as a user, if I were a user of that thing, I would not want my records made available.
I think that's interesting because that's a business decision and a technology choice that they made. If you look at what Apple is consciously doing with access to centralized AIs off of their devices, they're purposefully sanitizing any of the identity data and disposing of the context once you've had your interaction. So OpenAI doesn't have to keep that stuff, right?
No, absolutely not. But OpenAI does do it because, number one, it then informs their future LLM development, and number two, it allows them to provide memory to their users so that the LLM comes back. But the fact is, if you're using OpenAI, your data is on their servers,
your machine, not your data.
And as more and more people replace more and more parts of their compute with AI, if you're using centralized, you're subject to lawsuits, you're subject to government searches, you're subject to just about, anything, hacks, whatever.
We've been rewatching Mr. Robot, and I got to tell you,
oh wow,
that's not an instructive show about what happens when the centralized stuff goes down. It's not funny,
Yeah.
It's a documentary in that regard.
Yeah. Today, OpenAI proudly announced that they're allowing group chats in their LLMs. Do you know any other platform that might have group chats built into it?
Oh yeah, man, built right in, and group chats that they're not spying on.
Yeah, group chats that are peer-to-peer and that are not available to the New York Times to access.
I feel like I should have put a tinfoil hat on today. We're being really journalistic.
This is the last one. Oh no, yeah, this is the last. Well, one more little bang. Cursor, the coding AI platform, their valuation has gone up to. They're raising $2.3 billion at a $29.3 billion post-money valuation. Again, so this one is less about centralized, although it's centralized for me, and more about how stupid VCs are. And the reason I say that is the people piling money into coding-specific AI platforms, unless Cursor has some general compute application of what they're building that they're going to move into the world with, this idea of coding to build apps the way we used to do things or the way we currently do things is not a future forward AI model. The future forward AI model is to realize that the nature of applications and compute are going to change. And so, everybody and their dog being able to create their own vibe coded HTML app is not going to succeed.
I wonder how legit or real the value proposition is that they raise money on versus, hey, you know what? If I got to tell somebody who can only understand traditional programming, I'm going to do AIs that do traditional programming in order to raise $2 billion, I'll tell them that. And then, you know what? We're going to pivot to AI-driven agentic coding. That's what I would do.
Right.
But they all may only know that much about it, right? Don't know.
Yeah, exactly. This we'll get going here with your demo, but this is really interesting to me. This is a platform I haven't played with it yet called OLLM. Essentially, will allow you to run really giant models, some of the larger models, and I have two projects like this. Another one called ROLLM. On very minimal amounts of RAM and GPU capability. This article is claiming $200 consumer GPU with just 8 gigabytes of VRAM to run GPT OSS 208, 208 or Gwen 3 80B or any of the large models. And they're using a caching mechanism of some kind. And they're using disk cache instead of VRAM, but And it says that it's actually really pretty fast. That's something that's a little difficult for me to believe, but I'm certainly willing to give it a shot.
I've seen some stuff about this earlier, and they may or may not be doing the same thing, where because of the layers in the models, they can load, some of the early layers, run them, get the weights out, then load in the next set of layers and feed those in, and they basically swap up through the layers till they get the answer. Because once those earlier layers have done their computed their weights, they're not needed anymore, right? They're just sitting in there being
makes sense. Makes sense.
So I would suspect that they've just got some sliding window up through the stack of the model, and they don't have to keep around the stuff that they already used, right?
I wonder if that's LLM specific. Like, do they have to optimize for each specific LLM and the way it's built, or is it standardized across?
If they're all trained the same way and they all started with the same base infrastructure and they all build the data models the same way, they probably can, right? Who knows, right? That's just me guessing. But
me too.
I've seen something similar, and I can imagine that that's right. There's no reason. There's no reason when you're running a giant video game for every piece of every world and every cutscene and every bit of dialogue to be loaded into the computer just in case, right?
Yeah.
You just use the stuff you're using. It's the same thing.
Yeah, like 160B Qwen 3 model that normally would use 190 gigabytes of memory can be squeezed into 7.5 gigabytes of VRAM and 180 gigabyte SSD. Well,
I'd be more interested to see what they would do with a tiny model. Here's an 8 gigabyte model. What can you scrunch it down to, right? Can I run it in less than a gig?
Well, and does that actually end up being faster, right? Can you take a 16B model
I want to run it on my Apple Watch. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Speaking of which, just on a crypto note, a really interesting project, Lean Ethereum, from I think it's Justin Drake. Yeah. One of the Ethereum developers started a project called Lean Ethereum using snarks with the end goal of, initially 10,000 transactions per second on the network, and the ability eventually to run a node on Raspberry Pis and down to wearable devices. If it was, nobody would do that, but you get the idea. So, but it is pretty cool. And this is another one, we'll get it going now, called LLM that supposedly does a very similar thing, running a 405B Llama 3.1 in 8 gigabytes of VRAM.
That's really tiny on my screen. What do they target? What is that? All of the language choices and stuff that are in there. It's
this one. It says LLM optimizes inference memory usage, allowing 70B large language models to run inference on a 4 gigabyte GPU card without quantization, distillation, and pruning. Let me see.
I meant the language. You scroll back to the top real quick. I'm just looking at the stuff on the right hand side. It's all Jupyter.
The language is 90 Jupyter. Oh, Jupyter Notebook. That's interesting. Huh.
Yep.
Okay. And I've got some other stuff, but we'll move on today. And let me stop sharing my screen.
Well, so if we're gonna shift to some semi-related news as a lead-in to our dog and pony show, this week was play around with Blowfin's new copy trading functionality, right? I did it, you did it, and got some other people that were playing around with it just to see how it worked. And up until yesterday, it was doing great. I think week over week, I think I had 110% gain on my play money.
Right.
And then last night happened.
Yeah.
And while we slept, the bad elves came and took away all our toys. Right. So I had stop losses on mine, and it didn't damage stuff too badly. But it made me think, why are we relying on humans and copy trading as the mechanic that we use to keep our crypto investments accurate and safe and productively producing giant returns for us? We've got signals coming in from other places. We know statistically when it looks like there's going to be a dump or when it's been a dip and it's time to buy. We've had that in Kilroy since before COVID, right? Yeah. And I thought, there's no reason that we can't hook all those data points that we have into one of our AI pipelines and have it watch over our portfolio while we sleep, so we don't wake up to sideways perp contracts and zeroed out positions and all the carnage that I had to wade through this morning to figure out what was going on, right? Pop my screen up. I just want to show. So, this is what you're seeing as a human in Blowfin if you want to do futures trading with Bitcoin perp contracts. And if you're not familiar with perp contracts, go Google it and read about it, because if I try to describe it right now, it'll be 30 minutes from now when we're done. But basically, it's kind of
nobody understands it,
right? But it's kind of this weird self-balancing instrument where you can't get too sideways in it, and it gives you a predictable way to do leveraged trades, right? And so these copy traders in Blowfin are doing like 10x leverage on these trades, and there's a fair amount of volatility even sideways in Bitcoin, and they were doing really well, but nobody was watching while everybody was asleep, and we got dumped on. So I thought, well, let's look at some of the tools and pieces that we have in Kilroy, and maybe as a group with people who are listening and people who want to get involved, we can start to put together something that works at least as well as a human and doesn't have to go to sleep. Perfect. So one of the things that we've had in Kilroy for a long time is the ability to talk to just about any centralized exchange that's out there that's been around long enough to get CCXT interfaces built. So we have a Kilroy Exchange app, and I've already got some Blowfin API keys installed in Kilroy. I also have them for Coinbase and Kraken, I think. But I'm going to make a new exchange widget, and we'll just use Blowfin since it's already filled in. And this is not a very exciting user interface, and what it's doing is pretty mundane. It just gives you a view in through the APIs of what's going on in your Blowfin futures account. And right now it's supposed to be going out and fetching. Yeah. So this account doesn't have any positions in it right now. It's just sitting on $800 of USDT because all my stop losses kicked in yesterday. So I'm sitting on cash with no investments. And in Kilroy, if you wanted to, if you know the symbol of something that you want to buy in here, you can do market orders and limit orders right from inside Kilroy. You don't have to go over here to the Blowfin website and fill in all this stuff and do all this hinky stuff through their UI and hope that their servers are up. You can just go back to Kilroy and say, I want to put in a market order, and what ticker symbol do you want, and how much do you want, and buy or sell side, and hit go. And it does it through the CCXT APIs, and it does it. And you see it show up in your trade history, which you can look at in Kilroy, and you can do, you can close out those positions. You can do all the normal stuff that you want to be able to do manually through this Kilroy interface. Well, okay, great fun, except who wants to sit and watch and have to mash buttons all day? So a couple of weeks ago, I said, well, let's add some pipeline tools, some of our cool non-MCP, totally sanely interacted with tools for Kilroy to do some functionality from the AI perspective. So I added this little AI tools button, which basically just opens up a palette full of tools like you've seen before over here in our pipeline editor, all of these things, right? But this particular Kilroy app defines some of its own. So not only do you get the tools that we ship inside of the AI application that Kilroy is doing, but any third party can add blocks that extend the pipeline. And so an easy one to use is this get position one, right? And I'll put this over here and we'll look at it again in a second. But what I want to do is just spend a little bit of time and show how you can use the AI pipelines to do application development, right? There doesn't have to be AI always in a pipeline. It can be programmatic stuff too. So we've got a block called get position, right? And it's got some attributes on it about what it does, but the really key thing that we need to set up is, well, what exchange are we using, right? Well, I'm using Blowfin, right? So I want to get all of my positions in Blowfin whenever this little block is made to be active, right? Well, the easiest way to make it be active is to have something talk to it, right? Sure. So I'm just going to put a dumb terminal interface in here, and we'll let some message go into the swarm and some message from the swarm go into get position, and some message come back out and some message go to the chat agent so that we can see it, right? So we're going to let get position just listen to everything. It doesn't care who's sending stuff. And for now, just so we can see it on the screen, we'll let the chat agent listen to everything too. So pretty simple pretty simple little pipeline. Somebody's going to type something. It's going to go to the swarm, get position. It's going to say, oh, what? Oh, go get the position for the user's Blowfin account and dump it back into the swarm. And then the chat agent's going to just show it on the screen. So this is just a Blowfin test. And so let's export that, go back over to Kilroy, and we'll close this up, and we'll close this up, and we'll close this up, and we'll build that pipeline that I just drew. Okay, and it's just the one screen, right? It's just the one little guy who's going to let us talk to the get position box. No AI in the loop right now. So I can type anything. It doesn't matter. It's going to trigger that block to do its work, and it's going to go out and fetch my position. And what it does is put out the JSON results that come back from Blowfin about what's my position, how much free cash do I have, or total, or whatever. Right. All right. That's great. That's JSON, and it's not very useful to me as a human, and even less useful to an LLM unless we fix it up. Right. So first thing we might want to do is give that data to an AI agent, right, and let it do some work on that. So let's just tell the guy when you receive a JSON object, report the total amount in a markdown message. I don't know. Let's see what that does, right? So it's going to listen to what get position says, right? We don't want it to listen to what the user types because it's just going to be gobbledygook. So we want it to listen to what get position is telling it. And it's going to do its work with that system prompt and put the message back into the swarm as AI agent. Chat agents, let's say the chat agent doesn't really want to see the JSON, right? We want to hear what the AI agent has to say. So let's change this over here to be AI agent. So essentially, you're changing those. The yellow bubbles on the arrows determine who's listening to what, right? Right. And so that's saying the chat agent is only listening to AI agent, right? The AI agent is only listening to get position. Actually, you know what? We don't want get position to listen to everybody because it's going to hear the results that come out of chat agent. So we really need to be more discerning, correct, and say it needs to listen to chat agent. Yep. You're not in the box. Oops, I am not in the box. Right. So essentially, this is taking the JSON that comes in, sending it to the AI agent, having the AI agent process it and give it back to us in normal English. Right. So, except right now, would the chat agent get it if it's only listening to? Yeah, it is because it's getting it from the AI agent. Duh. It's basically going to go from chat agent to get position to AI agent back to chat agent. Got it. All right, so let's kill this other old one and make a new one. And it's just still going to be the chat window. The other two boxes aren't going to show. Okay. And I think we're going to have a little bit of lag because I want to make sure that, actually, you know what? It's a good thing I checked because Llama's not running. That would have been an embarrassing demo. Okay. Oh, we've had worse. Llama is running, and I'm glad that I checked. And then back to Kilroy. Now we're going to just say, what are my fat stacks looking like? Okay, and so that's going to go off to the LLM. It's got to load the model up, so just be patient, right? Oh yeah, well, and here it comes. And where's my answer? Come on, Kilroy, you can do it. Here we go. And then once the model's loaded, this thing doesn't take. It's still loading. I'm watching it in the other window. There it is. There it is. There you go. Cool. So it came back. It's hard for us to see on the screen, but it came back and gave you in plain English the amount in your portfolio. It'll be faster this time. I said, tell me again. Bam, there it is. There it is. Right. Yeah. Once the model's loaded, it doesn't have to be reloaded again. It won't take as long. So now we've got a situation where the AI agent knows how much free cash we have to spend. Right. So once we've got that, we can have another AI agent that's sitting and listening to maybe signals from material indicators, and it sees, hey, you know what? There's a 3 deviation on the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's dumping. Well, normally back in the old days when we were doing our trade bot stuff, we had to wait till the dump was over and then we would buy in because it was a buy the dip algorithm.
Right.
Now we want to look for smaller deviations, right? Maybe a 1.5 deviation or something, and we see that Bitcoin's dropping. We should sell perp contract.
Right.
Yep. And we can sell it short and write it down. And when we do get the bottom report from material indicators, we would close that sell position and switch to a buy position.
Right. And the beauty of this, the beauty of the platform is that we could have 4 or 5 different signals coming in. Let's say 3 different signals coming in for different parameters: trend, deviation, something else, right? Crossing, EMA, whatever. And we could have the AI agent decide, right, whether or not it's hit 2 out of 3 indicators, or 3 out of 5, or 4 out of 5, and not execute a trade unless the proper parameters are lined up for that. And then as we progress, and as your agent progresses through trades, we're now potentially, we could set it up to build up some data and be able to do some analysis and have agents that are actually storing data about, say, a particular pair or whatever, and can then be the agent that is smart about Bitcoin or Ethereum or AVAX or whatever, and have historical data that can also be leaned upon for analysis.
This is the cool thing. So now you got an agent that knows how to do effective trades on a particular perp contract at Blowfin, right? We're going to buy and sell Bitcoin until we're all fat rich. But here's the really cool thing. Now you can have subscribers to your trading strategy the same way that Blowfin's giving these copy traders a platform.
Right.
So I go on Blowfin and I pick a copy trader I want to follow, and it sets up and automates the trades for me as that person trades. Well, I can do the same thing. I've got a copy of Kilroy. I've got the software stack that's necessary to buy and sell with the exchange of my choice. I can now follow the swarm that Brad is producing buy and sell messages into.
That's right.
So as Brad buys and sells using his AI algorithm automatically, I can just copy what he's doing.
Yeah,
right. I don't even have to have an LLM on my machine. Right.
No, it just takes the signal and does the buy. Right.
Right. And so exactly what Blowfin's doing in a giant centralized exchange, any 2, 3, 5, 10, 50 Kilroy users could go off and do in a swarm by themselves.
Right. And the beauty of it is that one person can be working on performance basis, offering a subscription, whatever, to as many other users as they want. And there's no infrastructure cost for them. There's no infrastructure cost whatsoever in terms of like having to set up multiple servers or do anything else.
If you wanted to, you could be dumping those buy sell signals into a private Telegram channel and you really have zero infrastructure cost.
Exactly. Now that's the beauty of it. And you can interact with it through Telegram if you want. Or
sure, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, you're on your phone and you're getting buy and sell signals. Why not have it just, you put your own bot in the Telegram channel and listen for the buy and sell signals and do it yourself.
Yep.
Right? That's the really exciting thing. And this is why we really want to encourage people to get involved with this platform early, is building out these sort of community projects. We don't have any idea how it's going to go. Once 50 people decide to get into a trading club off in the corner in a Kilroy swarm and start asking for features and building things and sharing it with others, all bets are off what happens with this thing. I really can't foresee, where it ends up. I just know that we have all the tooling in place for anybody that wants to do it right now.
Yep. Yeah. And I think we could expand on this potentially next time with signals and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I think we should. We have the signals coming in. We can show those coming in. But the other thing, if you remember a while ago, we did a little dumb demo of watching Doge price. And if Doge price went down, we issued a sell command, and at the bottom we'd issue a buy command, and it was a little buy the dip bot. And we didn't do it for real, but we could put that one on the screen just to give people a sense the next time of, hey, this is the end game. This is where we're headed. But I really think we should build this out. This actually turns out, we used to complain that we wanted to trade on Blowfin, but they didn't have their spot their spot exchange exposed through CTXT. But in truth, I think this perp contract stuff that's going on in their futures market is probably easier and safer, right? There's first of all, we can do shorts in there, which you can't do on their spot market.
Yep.
Right. And secondly, all those perp contracts have kind of a bounded downside. The worst that you can ever lose in a perp contract is the amount that you put into it.
Yeah.
Right. Because they'll close you out, as opposed to like trading stock futures where it can go infinitely negative on you, and deleting your Robinhood account doesn't help.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. I love it.
All right. Well, that's today's Dog and Pony Show, Brad.
All right, man. We'll wrap it up. Hope everybody has a great day. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your Friday. And we will be back next Friday at 11:30 a.m. As always, if you are interested in playing with Kilroy, using it, building for it, joining us as we go to market, et cetera, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach me on Telegram and Twitter at B05Crypto. On Farcaster, it's at B05, and Chuck is C Shotton, SHOTTON, on all platforms. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
See you.
Okay. Well, I'd like to say goodbye, but it's not letting me.
Where's the stop button?
It's not. It's so weird. The go live button is supposed to turn into a stop button, and it has not.
Oh, you must keep serving.
You cannot stop. We're forever stuck. All right. I'm going to see what happens if I refresh my screen. See if it gives me the buttons correctly. If not, we're just going to have to drop off and leave an eternal stream running.